Our next topic is something that has been very much in the news recently, ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. It seems almost inevitable that AI will have a major impact in the gambling sector in the not-so-distant future. At the same time, AI is still an immature technology with, despite the hype, limitations and shortcomings. Still, the potential is enormous. I'm therefore extremely pleased to announce here today that we have Remy Gieling, who is a well-known tech watcher and presenter in the Netherlands. Remy, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here. Dankjewel. Thank you. Thank you. It's a real honor and pleasure to be able to talk to you for the next 30 minutes about one of my greatest passions, about artificial intelligence. You probably are maybe already a little bit fed up with the topic because you can't open a newspaper these days, or you can't open LinkedIn anymore, or somebody is rambling on about the possibilities of artificial intelligence or the possible dangers of the technology. And I hope to share with you a little bit of the fundamentals, what are we talking about, and what it can be used for today, especially in the gaming industry. So we'll talk a little bit about the AI fundamentals. What is the technology? Why do we hear so much about it the last year or so? I'll talk a little bit about ChatGPT and the large language models and what it can do for companies, and also how other companies in the gaming industry are already using the technology for better. My name is Remy Gieling, and together with my business partner Job van den Berg are the founders of AI.nl, a consultancy firm where we help organizations leverage the power of data and AI. And we're really big AI optimists, as you can imagine. So always when people talk about all the dangers and AI taking over the world and the fact that the Terminator might be just around the corner, we are a bit more on the optimistic side of things. So take that into consideration. And in our work, we get to speak to lots of groups about what it can do for your company, for your organization, or for yourself to improve your life and work. My own fascination for the topic came a few years back. I was in Silicon Valley for work, and everyone there was talking about this new hype called artificial intelligence. Especially Satya Nadella, the CEO, of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, or the mother organization Alphabet, said the famous words, "The impact of AI will be more profound than the invention of fire or electricity." And that really struck me. I have a technical background myself, but I was not sure what he meant by this. How can machines become smarter every day? How can machines learn from data? How can machines do more and more tasks that previously only humans could do? And that's when what really enlightened the fire for me. And I think since then I've been busy in the field every day. And especially with the launch of ChatGPT in December, and what has been called the iPhone moment in AI, it's really clear that we've kickstarted what we now call the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth next big revolution that will change the way we work forever. We of course had the steam engine, the arrival of the electricity in the workplace, the personal computer, and now with the rise of these new intelligent machines, we will work more and more in collaboration with intelligent software to make work and life better. And to put that a little bit in historical context, where are we? I always say we are again at the verge of the next technological revolution, just as with the verge of the internet. So imagine the year 2000. I think some of you remember when, in the Netherlands at least, we were dialing in on the internet with Planet Internet. We had Netscape Navigator. We were searching with altavista.com. And we're once again at that step in time. So when internet was here in the year 2000, we knew that it was a major revolution for work, but we couldn't imagine that 20, 30 years later we would have jobs like flash delivery, or we would have jobs like social media influencers. And once again, we know that artificial intelligence will change a lot, but what it exactly will look like in the year 2023, 2024, or 2030, 2040, we don't know. What we do know is that the technology goes really fast. We have algorithms that can write books, that can paint, that can perform musical performances, that can drive autonomously through busy cities, that can even operate on human brains. And I think it's good to get a little bit of a basic understanding, and we're not going into all the technical details, but what is artificial intelligence and what isn't it? And it's almost a philosophical question, because what is intelligence? And what is, in turn, artificial intelligence? I think it's a topic that we can all discuss for hours with a cold beer. And even the experts and even the scientists working on the technology for over, I think, over 67 years now, are not all on the same page when it comes to what is the terminology behind artificial intelligence. But what's mostly being said is that artificial intelligence are software that can do tasks that previously only humans could do. So software that can learn from data, software that can see the environment around it and make a decision. For example, a self-driving car who can see with a camera that a stopping sign is green and now decides to accelerate. It's interesting to see that artificial intelligence, while we heard about it a lot in the last few years, is not a new technology. It's actually conceived, and maybe you can imagine when you think it was conceived, but the term was conceived actually in the year 1956 at the so-called Dartmouth Conference. And people were very enthusiastic about the possibilities of these intelligent machines. And there was a lot of funding back then, a lot of research capabilities allocated. And that, in turn, there was so much energy around the topic that we had a chatbot in the year 1966. The first chatbot was called Eliza. It was sort of a remote doctor where you could say what your illness was and it would make a diagnosis. We had a self-driving truck in the year 1984. But as you see, the real developments are all happened in the last 10 years. So while the technology and the fundamentals are decades old, all the big breakthroughs have happened in the last 10 years. And that's because of three main reasons, and maybe you can figure out what they are. Does someone dare to venture a guess what two of the main reasons are why we hear so much about artificial intelligence these days? What caused the AI breakthroughs? Data, very good. First of all, data. Chips, yes, compute power, indeed. When we look at the history in time, and we go all the way back to the year 1956 at the left, all the way up to now on the right, it's a graph by The Economist, you see that the cost of compute power and compute storage has declined exponentially. Where it was in the 1970s very expensive to store 10 megabytes of data, today it's that cheap to store many, many terabytes in the cloud. At the same turn, we collect enormous amounts of data these days. In the year 2010, we collected a zettabyte of data a year. And a zettabyte is 1 billion terabytes. Today, in the year 2023, we collect 1 zettabyte of data every 3 days. And the next year, in 2024, we'll collect 1 zettabyte of data a year, or a day. So it's really, really an exponential growth in data. And every minute, and I really like this graph, because what are all these data points we're collecting? Well, for example, every minute we spend on the internet together, we send over 70 million messages on WhatsApp. We upload 500 hours of video to YouTube. We do a lot of LinkedIn requests, 200 million emails. And all these data points, of course, can be used for to improve these intelligent algorithms. The third reason why we hear so much about it is that there's a lot of money going around in artificial intelligence. The last 10 years, the 5 biggest tech corporations in Silicon Valley, Alphabet, Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Facebook, and Microsoft have spent collectively $223 billion in AI developments in the past 10 years. So the decline in compute power and storage, the increase in data, and the vast amount of money available for breakthrough technologies have really accelerated the growth. And Bloomberg, the big media company, analyzes that probably the market for AI will grow to $1.3 trillion in the next few years, where today it's about $40 billion. So a lot of room for potential. The big breakthrough, which is happening right now, is in a term that is called deep neural networks. It's a very complex algorithm that mimics the inner workings of our brain. So this is the inner workings of a Tesla autopilot system, for example. This is the system that decides if a car needs to accelerate, needs to brake, if it needs to turn left or right, or that it needs to stay idle for a little bit. And you see all little dots where small equations are happening, and they're all connected to each other, sending information left and right. And this is almost what's happening inside our brain as well. And you can imagine that these systems are very highly complex, and so complex that sometimes it's very hard for people even building these systems, and even the scientists and engineers, to really grasp how a system decides on an outcome when you start using these very complex algorithms. And that's what we call the black box problem. These deep neural networks, as I said, are powering a lot of innovations the last few years. In San Francisco, we have 3 self-driving vehicle startups, one called Zoox. This is this little car, which drives autonomously from A to B. It's a startup from Amazon. We have Waymo, it's a startup from Google. And we have Cruise, that is part of General Motors. And one of the companies, Cruise, they had a really big announcement last week because they already drove over 2 million miles, or 3.2 million kilometers, without a driver, all the way through these busy cities. So if anyone says to you, well, these self-driving cars are never coming to Amsterdam or another busy city center, they can never tackle the busy streets of a city center, in San Francisco, it's happening today. At the same time, these neural networks are being used by companies like Boston Dynamics, who are building robots that can help on our construction sites. Elon Musk is building a humanoid robot called the Tesla Optimus bot. He says this will be launched in 5 to 7 years' time. Will cost about $20,000, and he says this Tesla robot, will make physical work obsolete. It's supposed to do every kind of task imaginable, carrying your groceries from the store to your home, and of course working in all the distribution centers worldwide. Amazon, also one of the largest AI companies in the world, is hiring with algorithms. So if you apply for an entry-level job at Amazon, you are hired by an algorithm. And of course, Amazon took it a little bit further, and are now experimenting with firing people through algorithms, where people are not so happy with this, with this trend, as you can imagine. And one of the biggest breakthroughs, you probably heard about it, the arrival of ChatGPT. I'm curious, who has used ChatGPT already? A lot of people in the audience. You are a very highly technological group. Research shows that only 14% of US adults have used it, so you are really ahead of the curve. And I was wondering, do you have maybe 1 or 2 examples of how people have used ChatGPT? Over there.
I used my LinkedIn profile, company's LinkedIn profile.
And what did you do with your LinkedIn profile? You wrote the bio? Yeah.
I asked ChatGPT and it filled it.
Was it good?
So,
yeah, you can you can fill your LinkedIn profile with it over there.
Yeah, pretty the same. So also LinkedIn profile, and also for tech, the tech department of a company, they use it for starting code.
Very cool. I was at another conference yesterday, and somebody said we had a mandatory compliance online e-learning, and I let ChatGPT do the e-learning, and it. I passed. So he was very happy. His boss was beside him. He was like, I'm not sure if I'm happy about this. ChatGPT is the fastest adopted technology platform in the world. It took OpenAI, the company behind it, 5 days to reach 1 million users. It took less than 60 days to reach 100 million users. And today, in a few months' time, they serve over a few billion requests a day. And the site of OpenAI, where you can find ChatGPT, is among the 15 most visited sites on the internet. And the latest model, GPT-4, can do all sorts of things. So you can, it passed the US medical exam, for example. It got an MBA, it could get an MBA certificate from the Wharton University in the United States. And GPT-4 also is among the 10% best students for the US bar exam for lawyers, and which is known to be a very, very, very difficult exam to solve. And well, we can all use it, and I have some examples in a little bit, for our personal use, to write very compelling emails, to write LinkedIn posts, to summarize very long emails from our colleagues. The real breakthrough technology, I think, is in the fundamental technology that's powering ChatGPT, the large language models. You'll see that these large language models can be trained on specific data from your own company, and it will be able to build software products to communicate with your clients or with your colleagues, especially on the data set within your organization. So you will have a highly specialized chatbot who will be able to answer all sorts of questions, especially on your own proprietary data. Of course, OpenAI is one of the many companies building these large language models. It's not the only one, but it's one of the front runners when it comes to the adaptation. You already see, even in the gaming industry, that people are using this technology, for example, to build virtual assistants. They build virtual support persons to answer questions from users, and even to give personalized betting advice, for example. Also in other industries like PwC, the big consultancy firm, has built their own proprietary chatbot called Harvey to answer questions specifically about the legal industry. So many of you have used ChatGPT already. You can use it for lots of different things. You can use it to generate ideas if you want to start a new startup within the gambling industry or the gaming industry. You can ask it to give you ideas for new startups. You can rewrite text. You can simplify very complex programs, concepts. You can summarize text. You can even program whole software. It's really, really powerful. And in that sense, it's almost like Microsoft Clippy that we all knew and hated in the early 2000s in Microsoft Word, but then Clippy on steroids. Finally, we have a chatbot that's able to answer various questions and really help us in our daily work. But, and I think it's important to mention, that many people use ChatGPT in the wrong way. Maybe you have used it this way yourself, but the one thing that is really does a terrible job at is finding factual information. These language models are not based on factual information, but on mathematics and statistics. So it's a very, very highly specialized statistical model that predicts which words should follow up one another. And you can imagine that it is trained on all the data it's found on the internet, and it tries to find the relevant data points for the question you ask it. The problem with that is that it can formulate answers really, really well, but it doesn't know what it's talking about. It's like a very, very good parrot that has learned to talk like humans, but has no idea what it's talking about. And what you see is that people have started to use it mostly as a search engine to answer questions they have, like what can you tell me, ChatGPT, what can you tell me about myself? Or what can you tell me about X, Y, or Z? Or can you write an article for me about topic X, Y, Z? The problem is that it can formulate these questions very well, but it doesn't know what it's talking about. So it often can't. Fact and fiction are always intertwined. So be really careful when you use it as a search engine, as you do not always know what what it's saying, if it's correct. And I thought it was a very interesting thing that last week this article was in the New York Times. Maybe some of you Reddit. There was this lawyer in New York who, with 30 years of experience, who used ChatGPT as a reference for a case he was working on. And he asked ChatGPT, we're working on this case, can you mention 10 more cases like this so I can submit it to the US court? And he didn't fact-check the answers, and all the cases that were mentioned by ChatGPT didn't exist. Yeah. So now he has some explaining to do at the US courthouse himself. So please use it for all kinds of text purposes, to write your LinkedIn posts or rewrite text or give you ideas for the things you're working on in your daily work, but not use it as a search engine per se. Some business benefits for when you start using these large language models or AI in general is that, as a rule of thumb, you can use it for 3 main goals. So you can use it to improve efficiency in your team or in your organization. So you can do your tasks more efficiently, to reduce costs. You can use it to improve products or services, so you can increase revenue. Or you can get more insights from the data you already have to make better decisions for the future. And the opportunities are really, really endless. I think the platform Data Robot really had a cool insightful graph when it comes to the gaming industry, where you can use it. You can use AI to acquire new players. You can use it for risk assessment. You can use it for forecasting, to compare competitive pricing, to improve your marketing efforts. The possibilities are really endless. So the question is often where to start. And I think it's good that you to simplify the problem a little bit. When you start working on AI within your organizations, there are pretty much 2 paths you can choose. One, you can use it for the short-term benefits, AI adoption of existing toolings. Other people have built incredible software that you can leverage today to work more effectively. But the problem with that is that, while you really should do that because you can benefit today, is that your competitors can use the same kind of tooling. So at the same time, you should also think about the long-term AI transformation within your company. How can you gain a competitive edge in the future? And there you have to make custom models, which are a little bit more difficult. So, for example, I think a great case of AI adoption, really good tooling that can help you tomorrow, is implementing tools like our next speaker in a little bit, Mindway. I think it's a great example of the AI adoption where people have worked tremendously building incredible, powerful algorithms where you can leverage their technology for the better. Another example was Caesars Entertainment, which used the Salesforce platform to optimize email engagement and benefited 24% in their marketing campaigns using AI tooling from other people. At the same time, I think it's also very good to think about what are some of the systems we can build in-house. What are some of the systems where we can use data and AI to really gain a competitive edge? And one of the many, many options you have over there are, for example, the ideas of that you can use generative AI, AI that can mimic humans in tone of voice, in likenesses, in voice cloning, to really personalize online casino dealers, for example. So you have the system called MetaHuman by a company called Epic Games, who can realistically create digital humans. And if you combine that with human voicing and maybe these large language models as the text input, you can really create highly recognizable and highly personalized humans that can act as service providers for your customers. It's not inconceivable that this will also happen in the real world. There's also a company called Engineered Arts who's building a robot that's really being able to mimic human expression. And you can imagine that if you combine generative AI with voice cloning and with text synthesis, this can even be maybe the car dealer of the future. So if you start working on these systems yourself, if you start to think, how can this technology be leveraged in my own organization, in my own team, or in my own line of work, There is a very simple matrix that you can follow of the possibility of the many options you have when it comes to data and artificial intelligence. You can really good look at where do we get a high impact return, and it's relatively easy to make. That's the thing you should focus on right now, and maybe the research projects for the future. The low impact, easy ones are also really fun to work at more as a gimmicky project. For short term, when it comes to AI adoption, you can just do a process analysis. What is your team working on right now? Which processes are already happening in your team, and which can be automated or which can be automated by AI? With the long-term transformation, it's much more about really thinking about what is the business model of the future. We have created our own project and AI canvas that you can use. We'll share it afterwards. And you can also look at what other companies are using AI for. And it's mostly about creating employee productivity at the moment. And while many people are very scared about what AI will mean for their line of work. I saw a picture of the US Writers Guild, for example, who are protesting against the rise of ChatGPT. They say Hollywood should ban the use of these generative AI systems. Only humans can make the scripts for televisions and movies. I think it's not that we should see AI as a competitor. It's not human against machine, but it's human with the machines that will create the workplace of the future. And while there are many challenges to be faced when it comes to working with data and AI, and you can have a whole session about that later, it's good to know that there are already many initiatives that are going around to help to tackle the most pressing issues at hand. For example, the Gaming Association already has issued an ethical AI committee to think about how the gaming industry can leverage the technology in an ethical way. And also there's the European AI Act that's being built at this moment, but it's due to the democratic process in the EU, it can take a few years for it to be enacted, so they come with a sort of a code of conduct within a few months, probably. To conclude, the possibilities of AI are pretty much endless. It's really not a question of if you can do something with the technology, it's really a question, where should you start with it? And while some people are really afraid of the intelligent machines of the future, I personally believe that it will help us to finally be done with the repetitive, tedious task in our work. And I always like to end on a hopeful note in these presentations with a short word from one of my big heroes. And I hope someone recognizes him. It's not Bill Cosby, by the way. Some people thought it. Maybe it helps if I show this picture. Garry Kasparov. Where was Garry Kasparov known for? Or where was he? What was his big unfortunately, his big moment? He lost for IBM. What was the name of the system? Yeah, it was Deep Blue, indeed. So in the year 1996, Garry Kasparov, the world champion, the grandmaster at that time, lost as the first human grandmaster from a supercomputer called IBM Deep Blue. And for years, Garry Kasparov was really, really angry with these intelligent machines. They took away his purpose. They took away the fun in the game for him. And he said, well, if the supercomputers can play the game of chess, why should anyone want to play it? There are machines that can do it much better than humans. These days, we know that chess is more popular than ever, even though the game was won by machines years and years back, and we still want to watch two humans compete in the game of chess rather than watch two supercomputers play the game. And Garry Kasparov, he turned around and he said, I was wrong. It was not indeed human versus machine. We should look at it as human with machine. The best chess player in the world today is not a supercomputer, but it's a supercomputer and a grandmaster playing together. And he says the following message.
Machines have calculations. We have understanding. Machines have instructions. We have purpose. Machines have objectivity. We have passion. We should not worry about what our machines can do today. Instead, we should worry about what they still cannot do today, because we will need the help of the new intelligent machines to turn our grandest dreams into reality.
Yeah, wonderful words by Garry Kasparov. And while the future, even for the gaming industry, might be in virtual reality or the metaverse, which Apple just recently announced their latest augmented reality headset, I think that a real big change will come when we all start using the intelligent machines with data and AI to build more meaningful products and to help solve tedious tasks in our daily lives and work. So I wish you well in building that future together. Thank you so much.
Remy, thank you. Thank you for this very inspirational speech here. I think we've time for one question from the room here, and I think we saw some questions flashing by in Slido. By the way, Slido will be open still the whole afternoon, so if you have any questions, please put them there or upvote questions from others. Recommendation here. What are the best AI tools to use in your daily work, Remy?
It's a really good question. I think for every problem you have currently in your work where it takes you a lot of time, there is probably an AI tool being built for that. There are literally thousands right now, and we try to really spot the best ones, and you can view them at ai.nl/tools. It's in English, ai.nl/tools. You can find, I think, almost 200 AI tools you can use right now. I think one that's really powerful, and maybe some of you have to work in Excel or Google Sheets a lot to find data sources, and sometimes it's very hard when you work in Excel or Google Sheets to find the right formula. And there's a really powerful tool called sheetplus.ai, where you can ask the algorithm what you want to do in Excel or Google Sheet, what your intention is, and it will create the formula for you. And the best part, it's free to use. So I think that's one that's really powerful.
Great, something very practical to take home today. Another practical thing is Remy published a book last week. It's called Artificial Intelligence, Kunstmatige Intelligentie in 60 Minutes. It's a Dutch book. It's 180 pages in 60 minutes. Don't know how I would do that. We have a few of those, not signed yet by Remy. So for the Dutch speakers who are interested in one of those books, we have a few here. So come to me after during the coffee break, and we'll get you a copy. So Remy, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.